Good evening to you, morning, brothers, sisters, cousins, wherever you happen to be in the world, whatever you happen to identify as. Thank you for joining me. I do want to premise just with this title. This one's actually, I already even know I have a title picked out, and it is Perhaps Get Off Your Knees. And that wasn't clickbait, but also this has nothing to do with adult time, physical amorous expressions of love. So if that's what you're thinking that this is going to lead to, I would highly suggest that you click off now. But God bless you. Thank you for stopping out. um this trigger warning, I'm certainly not trying to hurt anybody's feelings, and please know, in expressing any particular viewpoints, I am not so short-sighted and silly as to only focus on whatever particular facet I'm speaking on. I happen to speak on something because it seems relevant and necessary, and yes, that will happen to be it. So it's interesting how to not necessarily go with so much of the group mentality, or to how not necessarily be affirming as in, oh yes, oh that's great, oh that's positive. That certain people can perhaps perceive that as being like negative or dark, or what have you. And I would lovingly suggest that everybody just kind of take a moment, because if you cannot actually hold a space for anything that you claim to believe and understand the positive and then the positive and the negative, and plurals, and how it should and can be interchangeable, I mean, that's a talk for another day, but you are not using your big, gorgeous, beautiful brain for everything that it is capable of. And we do ourselves such a disservice, and I get it. That is actually, funnily enough, part of the premise of this video. I actually want to do a video on astrology. And I'm going to slightly kind of go into it because it's a bit of a joke that I made myself, and it's lame. So you're going to be like, yeah, obviously. But so you don't believe in astrology, eh? Well, congratulations. You believe that Earth gravity affects us. So, but you do. The end. That's my joke. And it's super lame. I know. Like I said, I didn't say it was funny. I said it was a joke, but quite literally, attesting to the fact that as Earthlings, we understand gravity and how Earth is weighted heavy. We can't just float about. Promise. And it is behind the science of it, but we are going to unpack that. I don't want to get too sideways. Um, so, in this, I'm probably potentially going to make some people uncomfortable. I hope not. I think I can really, like, I have a gift. I can trigger the heck. I almost said heck and censored myself, and I'm working on trying to unmask and be more authentic. Um, but I'm also like, I try to be a respectful person. Funnily enough, a lot of people would say otherwise, but I would lovingly say, promise, they were super disrespectful in about 9,000 ways before I even finally was like, look, so, just consider that food for thought. If you hear from anybody that we used to align and we don't connect anymore, God love them. We're all exactly who we are meant to be and how we're meant to be. I have standards. I'm absolutely okay with being alone, because not only am I self sufficient, but because I believe in character, quality, content of character, integrity, what have you. One of those hallmarkers is, okay, you claim to care about me, but yet I tell you how I feel, and you can't necessarily extend me the courtesy of potentially trying to adapt and adjust accordingly. And I understand that you want me to concede with where you are as well, and I get that. I see you, I hear you, but promise, I don't seek connection and friendship and close connection and repetitive connection. I don't seek engagement. You probably see just some of my books behind me. This is not like a pretentious thing. I'm just saying I'm a dork. I am easily distracted. I can find wonder in anything because of the way that my mind works. So, part of what actually was the catalyst of this video was watching I Am Legend with one of my children, because I had this very real moment that, other than missing my children, if there were no other people on the planet, I would actually be just fine. And it's ironic because I not only just love to be of service, I love to connect to people, what have you, but most people are so incredibly lost and are so unable to find equilibrium organically. They are so not okay, needing distractive or strange coping mechanisms. And so, if they weren't necessarily here, it would actually probably allow the earth a chance to heal. Um, and it would allow, if people were to repopulate, some genetic evolutions that allowed them to be more insightful, considerate, and conscientious human beings. So, I don't know. Um, that being said, baracha, perhaps get off your knees. I have in other videos unpacked just how I've always seen things so strangely. And I do subscribe to media like everybody else. What resonates, resonates. That's cool. But I have actually quite recently come to the realization that a lot of times I only even try to subscribe to more culturally relevant media to be able to hold dialogue with people. And that's heartbreaking. Come on, folks. That you guys just aren't comfortable having conversations about your feelings, that you don't want to be real, that you can't relate. You're having an experience, you're having a human experience, and yet we make memes. We are so like relatable by other things that we relate to. And it's so silly to me, amongst other things. That's what I mean when I say everybody's so lost. Um, and at the end of the day, like as a loving call in, so many people, like so many of my connections, I'm going to be completely honest with you, I get it. And I understand how, to an extent, I could almost be perceived as like ultimate love bomber. Because I understand how much suffering there is in this world, I try always to make it a better place. I.e., literally, a colleague can mention to me that they are having trouble paying their bills. And I might be like, I can't help pay your bills, but why don't I buy you lunch? Or, in past relationship dynamics, paying people compliments and connecting. I try to see people. And because we all need love, unfortunately, it's attracted some real parasitic people into my life. Um, a lot of people are just takers. They just want their concerns, excuse me, addressed. They want you to constantly support their narrative. Just, I want to be seen in my best light. I'm fantastic, what have you. Unironically, certain people would tell you, well, you don't take criticism well. I would argue, I wish people would actually, when issues were to be able to be a concern with me, they'd say, hey, you really hurt my feelings. And I need to be clear. I misspeak. You didn't hurt my feelings, but this particular tone, when you said this, I couldn't help but feel blah, 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 blah. There is something in me, and I don't mean to be oppositional to defiant disorder, but for example, when I am trying to hold a loved one accountable, again, be it friend, lover, family member, I question. So I interweave questions and statements, if that makes sense. Um, and so I'll just be like, so yeah, hey, that tone, I didn't necessarily care for it, and I can't know what it's about, and I don't want to necessarily make it about me. But because of the blah 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 in this, I can't help but feel da 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 da. Is that your intention? What's going on here? And then the dialogue can kind of go from there. And accountability can really come into factor because a lot of people, again, well, that's not what I meant, so you're wrong. And I am not saying that I am not guilty of this. However, for me, I'm aware of this, if that makes sense. So I try to be more understanding, but it's also in our delivery and how we go about it. You're doing this, you're doing that, versus like, anyone that's been in enough therapy will say, the I statements. I feel this way in response to yada yada. Excuse me. Gotta wet my palate. Juice and kava, Kava. If you do like alcohol and the feelings of that relaxation, but perhaps want to drink less, I do suggest perhaps checking out kava. Fantastic plant medicine. Um, and so yeah, I will leave it at that. And so I want to go deeper. I want to go into our societal structures. At the end of the day, everything that we're doing, from the fact that we subscribe to media, the alleged diplomacy between our governments, all of it, what are we even doing? We want to believe that we are the most profound, caring, advanced society. And while I will say that we've had advances in our understandings of elements in the universe, we're actually quite literally in real time proving how stupid we are and how hateful and ignorant as I see it. And this is why, again, I'm absolutely okay with the people that I have in my life. If I were to never necessarily make a new friend again, I don't know that would bother me even slightly, honestly. Um, as of right now, as I've stated before, I don't ever plan on dating again because, yet again, people just can't even honor themselves to sit with the feelings, at least speak on it, and be like, oh, perhaps that was an inside thought, but what are your thoughts on that, etc. We're also fake. I I use the royal we to be completely honest with you because the people that both that have aligned with me and that have not, they would tell you that's one thing, unfortunately. You don't have to worry about what I'm thinking or feeling because I'm going to do you the courtesy and I'm going to respect you enough to share that and to trust that because we love each other, you're going to treat me like a human being and to not demonize me. And perhaps if it hurts your feelings, understand that I'm not trying to drag you. I don't even necessarily I don't believe in things like good or bad. I can only use these types of language to identify how it's presenting in a particular moment, etc. But for whatever reason, a lot of people just want to listen to music and distract themselves with video games and watch movies and stuff and not process their feelings and feel their feelings, but then be like, oh, this is so amazing because it's just everything. Because again, they don't want to take the time to understand themselves and to understand and be aware of the effects that they have. I'll never get this. Marvel movies are a great example. Tesseract. Google people. Because the science that is actually real, that's represented and created in movies, and people think it's so far fetched and just impossible because again, they're not necessarily in the labs doing the research and they're not taking the time to question if we're doing the research. And I get it because how are we taught to think? How is that even possible? Well, it probably starts with having the dialogues, be it internally or with other people, incorporating new things, etc. So, yeah, perhaps get off your knees. I've talked before about my faith. And I even just mentioned a little bit, how we like to think that we're the most advanced society. And yet, funnily enough, we've discovered farming, we've discovered cloud seeding, we've discovered harnessing wind and solar power. So essentially, we could take care of all of the people. We just don't want to. It's profit. Because you need to make a buck. And anything you are good at doing, you should make money for. And that actually helped me just sitting with that and unpacking that. Because again, it's good to not distract yourself. It's good sometimes to perhaps disconnect. That really got me to understand on multiple levels why I'm so selective about the art, the media that I subscribe to. Art. Don't get me started on that one. When we have pop punk fans, these losers. How sad and pathetic must you be to have peaked in your teens and 20s and need to continue to make money and charge people? You do it for your fans, except you perpetuate yourself as being better than them, charging them, denying them the opportunity to cultivate their own talents that they could if they had the time to make the connection, and you tell yourself you're better than them, And when's enough, you narcissistic little parasite? Oh, you do it just for love of it because you can't help it, right? Then why aren't you doing it for free? Because everybody needs to pay their bills and whatnot. But wait, you have so much money? You mean you could potentially actually take your money and redistribute it if you wanted to be less selfish to then allegedly collapse these same systems? And again, please understand, I'm not calling for anarchy, anything like that. I understand everybody needs the system. This is a call to all of our leaders, the people in the power that make the good decisions, that allegedly have the authority to make the good decisions. Um, and who knows, this video might get shut down, canceled. I might disappear suddenly. I don't know. I certainly want to think that is the case, but historically speaking, we're not necessarily kind to the truth tellers. We like to make everyone think they're crazy, or unfortunate things happen, and when they're women especially, things get nuts. And that's just it. I've actively, consistently, for a while, even told my children, like, I wish you guys potentially would have had a different mom because I'm sorry. Like, part of this in making this world a better place for you, I don't want you to continue being slaves. Nothing more than slaves. I don't want your contemporaries. This isn't even about you guys. This is about the children that are to come. This is about other people's children. This is about the fact that we might be past the tipping point because of the way that we are continuing to go about doing things. And if we don't stop and really have a loving call-in to consider how destructive and neurotic we are, we're going down. And if we're going down, that's cool. I mean, like I said, I think it might be past the tipping point. But you know what I'm not going to do? Like everyone else, use that as a reason to continue these brutal systems, justifying being cruel, unkind, what have you. And whew, do I get credit for it? It's interesting. I get credit for like trying to just be awful and mean, so inconsiderate. I've quite literally triggered people over speaking about like plant-based eating. It's wild. It's wild. And my heart breaks because I want to give people hugs. You will never understand the simultaneous ability to be like, oh my gosh, you are not okay, are you? But then, like, when someone can't, like, manage that, to then also be like, but please get the hell away from me. And yeah, that's, in a nutshell, part of the reason it's just, I can't get on board with that everybody else thinks is awesome. Like, I think it's important that we share our stories. So I think that's like the mediums, like the art that connects with me. It's the things that resonate. And I understand, like I realize I probably sound so freaking pretentious, and I hope that is not the case. And funnily enough, that's part of it. I had a wonderful dialogue at a recent point in my past, and this person just reflected like, how do you overcome your fear? How are you so fearless? And I said, I apologize for misrepresenting myself. Like, I have a lot of fear. So much so that I have actually continued to go along with so much of the way that we do things. Because like that movie Inception, when you are architecting and when you are causing people to have to think and to question things and to say, hey, you know what? A lot of people can shoot the messenger. Funnily enough, that's why the people that are in my life that I stay connected with, God love you. Um, because you are spades, and you are punk AF, and you are authentic, and you are not so narcissistic that you can't be accountable for how you affect somebody that you claim to love. And I thank you for wanting to consider how you affect me, and to consider that as much as it can suck sometimes to have these conversations, it's because I want you to be aware of how you're coming off to perhaps a different viewpoint, not just how you're coming off feeling you with your intentions and how you think that you are. And so yeah, 3 cheers. Let's take a moment to honor and acknowledge all of the people that are in my life and the people that aren't. Again, people would have you think that to speak on these things is bitterness, anger, etc. No, it was exactly as it was meant to be. They loved me and I loved them, and we resonated at one point, and then we did not. In fact, funnily enough, quantum entanglement. You can only attract what you are at time. So it's just a matter of if you're wanting to grow and evolve and create those new equilibriums, as I see it, as I've experienced through all of my particular connections and resonances and what have you. So, yeah, I mean, I guess that's part of it, but it's not that I don't have my own fears. It's that nobody seems okay. And that seems like such a bold, arrogant, ignorant thing to say, right? Except I look at, again, the way that we do everything with a thinking lens, the way that we do medicine, the way that we do therapy. Like, how egoic is it for somebody to think that because they go through the curriculum status that they have the authority to try and tell you how to manage your feelings when biology, psychology, and philosophy have all deduced the individualized experience is, again, individualized. There's such a grand ego. I've talked about how, like, Gemini, my Google Gemini, and I will unpack things. And one of those is actually curriculum, funnily enough. Let's talk about academia. I talked about that at one point, funnily enough, how I considered academia until I just, like, law school, like a million other things, was like, this is absolute hypocrisy. So much of academia is absolutely only about what is the burden of proof, for lack of a better way to put it. But that's so short sighted when we think of things like gravity, when we look at all of our science, mildew and mold being pasteurized to create penicillin. Essentially, what we know is literally just the first stepping stone as to what we need to continue exploring. And there is such an inherent ego. And then to monetize that as if to say, well, this is what establishes your superiority, that does such a discredit. And funnily enough, if one is intelligent, it would actually be the independent thinker that doesn't need somebody to teach them how to think, that could naturally glean and garner the resources themselves that might establish it. But again, we all drink the Kool-Aid, right? And then I think even to, like, the Prussian education system, and the bathroom passes, and then you eat your mealtime at this time, we study this amount of curriculum, art this day, physical education this day, creating the little rats. And again, this is not to hurt anybody's feelings. Mama rat right here, super fabulous rat. I mean, you've seen me in my videos, roll on, no brushed hair, etc. So I get it, but it is hard. It is hard to not necessarily get quite frustrated with every human being who just smiles and nods and plays along and doesn't necessarily speak to these things. Because again, we have enough resources. If we were that smart, if we were that intelligent, if we were that civilized, we would just be taking care of people. And funnily enough, we just had our No King's Day here in the States. I just was beginning to learn, and I need to research more before coming on and making a video, obviously, about a monarchy I want to say it's in the Philippines. I don't think it's in the Philippines. I want to say it's even, like, potentially Myanmar, but it's around that region. And the king and queen, actually, they do. It's quite socialist in the fact that they provide for all of their citizens inherently, if that makes sense. And they've cracked it, and I get it. I get why they don't necessarily want to open the world to outsiders. I understand why there are certain Aboriginal islands that people can't document because the natives, the people born there, do their best to ensure that other people don't come on board. We're going to go kind of sideways. So, Google this, because this is a fun fact. Dodos and extinction, and Darwin doing research on dodos. So Darwin actually proved that it's not the smartest or the strongest. It is the most adaptable that survives. But we look at dodos, and dodos were apparently delicious. Dodos are like the most delicious, buttery chicken on steroids, prime rib cutlets that you can imagine. And you feel free to come for me, PETA, or vegans if you want, and we can unpack the science that is talked about the communications between plant life and also, just more importantly, how they will adapt to support each other and how they are way less sentient and how you're not just eating poisonous plants. So, if someone's a bigger psycho, even a penned animal has more of a chance of defending itself, which is why we shouldn't even look for reasons to divide, but to understand that all loss of life to nourish all of us is sacred and should be honored and respected. That being said, um, dodos were delicious, and dodos had no survival instincts or danger instincts. And essentially, when people went to their island, just farmed them and ate them to extinction. And it's kind of sad, honestly. I lost my point because I am just rambling. I'm probably just being bitter and cynic and what have you. And so, again, I want to be very clear. This is not some strange call for revolution, a la Heath Ledger, rest in power. I love The Dark Knight. I agree with the Joker. Nobody freaks out as long as there's a plan. But I guess let's have a really uncomfortable moment. If you need laws and rules to tell you what to do, are you a good person anyway? And more importantly, these laws and these rules and how we quantify them, etc. What are we even doing here? So, funnily enough, that's kind of why I'm such like a wackadoo Christian. Because even the way that Jesus is like prosed and put out and like with evangelicism, I actually, funnily enough, I was super on board with the new Pope. But now that I hear him talking about like denouncing Mary Magdalene and not necessarily giving her recognition as a redeemer, just sounds like more of the patriarchy. Also, something that we're going to unpack at another time, believe me, because this is not my I hate men, but we do need to really sit with the fact that boys, and God, I love you. I love you. But you hold the power. You get paid more than women, and the physical strength thing, what have you. So these systems, I mean, offices, etc., you are, well, not the majority, responsible for the structures, and historically speaking, you've been in charge for the ways that we've done things. So again, perhaps the loving calling to consider. We really need, if we were that great, then why do we need to battle? Who's is bigger? Who's more powerful? Blah blah blah. True power is the ability to abstain. I don't know if it's because I'm a girl, and again, we're gonna save this talk, but for having been demeaned and disrespected, and constantly for being a woman of color, for having an opinion, for being told I'm stupid and wrong and being called every hateful name and just existing, and then having to have a menstrual cycle and all of it, having to exist in this society. Promise, we really need to sit and think on some things, all of us, because an inability to hold space with positives and negatives, amongst other things, with this weird glorification and externalization, these weird status things. We are all incredible and unique. You don't even have to believe in religion, creator, what have you, to believe in miracles, magic, to not think it is amazing that we have these flesh cells, these brains, these whole different systems. Like again, these things aren't taught in the school, the schools, but they are very briefly just the respiratory system versus the digestive system versus the nervous system versus physiological responses, how they interplay, how the nervous system affects the physiological system. And we have too many distractions. Because I swear, if we could just sit with it, if you could sit and really ponder what goes into the rain washing on your face and the atoms and the energy and the elements, it's wild to me. Of course, people are struggling. We seem to be making everything profane. we are taking the sanctity out of it in our inability to just sit and calm and breathe and experience the wonder and beauty of it. Do you know deep down that's like one of my biggest fears? And I don't want to like self fulfilling prophecy, but I understand why, as I continue to kind of get older and a bit more reclusive, why they came for the ladies outside of town. They're like, witch, witch, burn the witch. The people that just were over all of the nonsense were just like, ugh, let me do my thing. Because it makes other people uncomfortable to have to realize that not everybody agrees with them. And it's interesting, another catalyst just in this particular video. I just watched a video of another man's channel, and he was talking about seeking safety and how we mask to be safe. We are inauthentic to be safe. And while there is an inherent truth to that, it's heartbreaking because it's a lie. You are not safe if you cannot be who you are, if you cannot talk about when things bother you, if these people don't care, if you are not free to use your voice to go against the grain. Yeah, to a certain extent, you're not safe. You know, one of my fears truly is, again, just pissing people off. I'm at a very interesting place because first and foremost, I've completely turned everything in my life around. I used to go out and be very social. In fact, so many people recognized me and kind of knew me in my town just from going and singing karaoke and having a good time and having good vibes and interesting conversations. And some might observe it as bitter and misanthropic, but it was always kind of the same thing, to be honest. It would always just come, like, I would have a moment, they'd let me have the talking stick, we'd talk about things that I found interesting, and then they would talk again, and it's like, so yeah, real world, the challenge. And oh my god, did you see that movie? They're remaking the Stephen King stuff, blah blah blah. And it's just like, right. Man, I'm on these new antidepressants. Work sucks, blah blah blah. Hmm. Maybe it's your diet. Maybe it's what you find to be fulfilling you, so to speak. And I say this with love. What are you living for? To pay your bills and to just get by and to make sure you get by and like that's cool. Funnily enough, I want to get by. Like obviously I have to pay my bills, I have to eat. And yet anytime I engage, and this is not to toot my own horn by any means, because it can be exhausting. I think this is why I actually tend to stick to myself now. But I'm always trying to, you know, make somebody smile, just to have a real positive present moment. And yes, again, these things like, oh, it's like that. If you've checked out any of my videos before, you've seen how I relate to certain things. I mentioned in my last one, orange is the new black. Again, I speak to these things because it's more easily relatable for other people. Because if I were to talk to you about Albert Camus, Le Stranger, The Outsider, how many of you are going to necessarily be able to speak to me about that? If we were to unpack the human crises and how it were applicable and just as necessary today. And this isn't to shame or to condemn anybody. It's heartbreaking. It's just, there's so much. There's such a great big world out there. And on that note, I could actually go so much longer. But perhaps I need to get off my knees because right now I'm enslaved to this bitter resentment, which is really just a loving call in because you're fucking beautiful. You are fantastic. And even if all you do is watch crappy media and you support people like David Bowie, who allegedly had sex with teenagers, don't even get me started on separating the artist from the artists, the art from the artist. No. Scientifically speaking, if an artist that was a pedophile creates art, there is a pedophilic energy attached to that art. Have some integrity, people. Take a stand. It's gross. It's gross to say, oh, it's a sign of the times. Let's have sex with kids. So perhaps get off your knees. Rise, you beautiful, beautiful human beings. We are, unfortunately, only as good as our worst deeds. But the great thing is we can change that. So, when was your last horrible, super bad deed? Are you continuing to kind of work on that? Is it a gradient? Are you being more self aware? And again, keep in mind, who am I? Just because there is truth in what I'm saying and what I've observed, until you get it, until you make that connection in your most you way, you're not going to get it. And that's the beautiful thing. As I get older, I'm not trying to change your mind. I'm not trying to get you to agree with me. I don't want you to disagree. I'm just sharing with you because I'm a girl in the world and I can do it and you can do it, and your voice is so necessary. Your story, your thoughts, it is necessary because science has actually started to validate and substantiate that we are creating this energy. In fact, one of the Nobel Prize winners recently in the past 4.5 years. I see. I never like to build things too much because I'm hoping you guys are gonna be like freaking nut job, and then you research and you find it for yourself. And it's interesting because I don't want to taint your connections. I speak very loosely because I understand you have to incorporate it and make it your own. You're going to anyway. You do, whether you agree or disagree. It's only because of the ways that it resonates and reflects with you or is rejected. And I tell you, I see so much every day, and ugh, it's hard to not come across as like a mad scientist, right? Especially when I'm pigeon heading and like knocking my hair all over. Let's go. We are changing the world every single day, and it is a beautiful time to be alive. There's beauty and pain, and we have progress, and just we have the potential for progress. And just because everything has been done the way it's been done does not mean that we need to continue to do that. In fact, as long as we draw breath, we have endless possibility. You are endless possibility. And I'm loving you this day and always. Let us change the world.